This video will demonstrate how to start a phone call or a meeting in Teams where you can use the video chat function. So one way to do it is just go into calls and it'll show you all of your contacts. So if you want to just do a one-on-one video call with another teacher, you can do that here, and you can probably also search for students in the same space and start a one-on-one video conference if you're going to offer one-on-one help or office hours or something like that. This is a good function for that one-on-one calls, but I think if you're going to meet with a class or anything like that, or even just a department, the place you would go is to Teams. So if I go back out to all teams, these are the different teams that I'm a part of. This is the science team that I created last week. But if I come in here to middle school science, this is all the science department members. So one way that I can then create a video call, I need to move the screen down a little bit, is down here there are all these different options. So I can change formatting, attach things, and this space here is kind of the Facebook feed of all of the information that has been added, or making a bar graph, as Hannah added that a little while ago. I can add a GIF if I want to, but this part here, Meet Now, will start a video conference call that anybody that's a member of this team can join. So that would be Hannah, Patrick, Annika, Meg, or Todd Fawcett could join into this meeting once I start it. So I'm going to click Meet Now. Science demo meeting. And I'm going to hit Meet Now. So I've arranged for Hannah is available, and she's going to join. And you can see my smiling face. Wonderful. One thing I can do is I can turn the camera off. That way my face isn't right there. You can turn that back on if you would like to. You could also mute yourself. So if you're having a conversation with somebody in the room with you, you can mute, which would be useful. Then some other functions here. If you click these three dots, you've got some other things. If you want to start a video, there's Miss Barry right now. How are you?
Hello.
So I just showed the on this video how to turn the camera on and off, so you can do that unless you want your face to be prime time.
Okay.
See ya.
See ya.
So some of these actions that are helpful, if I go to start the video with blur, what that will do is it'll blur everything that's behind me. So if you're in the middle of your living room or kitchen, you can do that and make sure that people aren't necessarily watching what's behind you. It's obviously easiest if you can post up kind of in a corner or right behind a bare wall. The other function that's useful when you are doing a meeting is you can start recording. So what that'll do is it'll record all of the audio and visual that occurs during this meeting. That way you could later post that video to YouTube or Schoology in case you were doing a video lecture or something like that. The other function is this share function. So what the share function does is it allows me to show any open windows that I have. So I could switch over and show the beginnings of my report card comments. I could scroll down, and if I want to, I would click on my open one. So if I have shared my screen with students, and especially with OneNote, this is pretty useful because I can go through my lecture just like I normally would, but instead of projecting it on the front whiteboard, I'm just kind of projecting it onto their screen. So I can type notes in here, or if I had my stylus, I could write my notes in, and students could be following along in their own OneNote, or they could be following along on paper and be adding their notes as they went. I could, go through, I could come up to our labs and take a look. We could read through the race car project together. I could show them how to annotate it and any information that they need, or we could talk through a lab report that they can do at home and what the writing expectations are, and we could all see everything together at the same time. So to get out of this, I would come back down to this bottom corner here, and where this X is, which then will show stop sharing. So I'm going to click on that, and it brings me back up to this page, right? And again, if I wanted to turn my camera on, I would come right over here. So the other things that you can share, there's this Microsoft Whiteboard function. So the science team tested that a little while ago. If you click on Microsoft Whiteboard, it is a shared whiteboard feature that everybody that's a part of the team can type or draw on. That seems like a good idea until you have 15 teenagers able to use the whiteboard at the same time. And it probably would quickly become a disaster. Might not be a good idea. I mean, maybe, right? But it likely would just end up being a place where everybody can just kind of write whatever they want and be funny. There might be a time for that, but if you're trying to do a lesson or something, I would not use the whiteboard. I would switch over to OneNote. Even if you've never used OneNote before, you can just switch over to OneNote and open up a blank page where either with your stylus or with typing, you can add information that the students would then be watching in real time. And I think that would be where the benefit of this recording feature comes in. If there's a student that needs to rewatch it or wasn't quick enough to keep up with the notes or anything like that, they could go back and rewatch that once you posted that to Schoology or to YouTube. The other thing is you can, if I've got the video on and you're watching me, I can minimize my screen up here. I'm going to move the recording feature up here. I could minimize this and go do stuff on my computer, type up some notes or find a file or whatever. And if the video is pointing at my face, the students aren't going to see that. Likewise, if I switch over to OneNote and I close out of OneNote, then I can also go to my desktop, etc., and they will only see OneNote because all that I've shared with them is this window. The difference is that if I share with them my desktop, they will be able to see the different files that I go to. So I would not recommend sharing desktop, and I would not recommend doing whiteboard. If you want a space where you can type or you can write and they can see it in real time, I would suggest sharing this window of OneNote. That would be more useful. So you can minimize this whole thing and do stuff in the background. The students cannot see that. Even if you're in OneNote, you can minimize that and go look at other files or other emails, and they cannot see that. Still, either way, I would close out of your email, close out of your personal email, close out of any student information files, just because if you switch, when I click to switch into OneNote, if I have a file open in the background as the screen is switching back and forth, it could potentially flash that other Excel file with grades or student information or whatever very briefly as we switch over. So it's best just to kind of close down anything that you don't want students to see where possible. The only other piece that might be useful, you can show conversation, right? So in this meeting we haven't had any chats, but if I wanted to send something to Hannah, I could type something here, and then I could click enter, and it would send. That is useful if some students are going to mute themselves or anything like that. This just mutes me. It does not mute each individual person. I can show the participants, and I can mute them. For some reason, I can't mute Miss Berry right now. But I think you sometimes can mute the participants. However, they usually can unmute themselves. I can't mute her because she already muted herself. So the problem with, it would be nice to be able to mute all of the students at once so that they don't have everybody chiming in at the same time, and then be able to unmute them for conversation. I think the easiest way of doing that would just be to ask everybody to mute themselves for the time being so that you don't have 15 potential participants talking over each other at the same time during the middle of the lecture portion, right? You could pause your lesson and ask people, okay, now you can unmute, ask questions or something like that. But I think that's also where the chat function would come in handy, where if you set some ground rules for how this chat is used, If everybody's muted but asking good questions in the chat, you can then address them one at a time as they pop up, and it's not going to necessarily be the 15 people talking over each other or everything getting jarbled. If you've got people asking questions in the chat, you can reply to it as you find a moment in your lesson. That might be the best place. But this will mean creating some ground rules at the beginning in terms of everybody muting themselves and agreeing upon some rules for how to use that chat feature. If I've missed anything, please let me know how else I can help and what other videos it might be useful for me to upload.